So one of the things that we get asked quite a lot is, what exactly do you study on the Cambridge Foundation Year?
And the way that we have structured the Foundation Year programme is to allow students to gain a range of higher learning skills and subject knowledge that will allow them to progress on to a range of different subjects once they've completed the course.
We have students, around 50 students who want to study all different things at the end of the course. So how do you provide a curriculum that offers something to everybody and also allows students to explore things that they actually wouldn't expect that they're interested in or that they have an aptitude for, but actually when they get down to it, that's actually the thing that they enjoy most about the course?
The course is separated into 4 different subject streams. And within these streams, you'll pick up certain skills that will allow you to progress on to your next steps.
And basically on the course, you choose papers from within these different streams. That means that you have a lot of options to choose from. That actually offers a lot more options than you get on many other degree courses. Generally, in the first year, you sort of all do the same thing. On our course, our students are doing a wide range of courses and combining them in sometimes interesting and unexpected ways.
The first of these streams is the Working with Textual Sources stream.
This is a stream that's compulsory for everyone, and basically each term there are 2 papers that you can choose from on this stream. So you have to do at least 2 papers over the course of the year, but you can choose when exactly you do them according to the subjects that interest you.
The Working with Textual Sources stream will allow you to approach a range of different subjects using texts as your sort of gateway into that topic. An example of one of the textual sources papers would be the study of post-Windrush society using poetry. This is a course where you will not only get to think about how Black British authors since the 1950s have expressed themselves through poetry, through prose, and in different textual mediums, but also to engage with the history of this period, the migration patterns of this period, and some of the political and social movements that have run in tandem with the poetic expression that you'll be studying in that paper.
We have one exploring the religions of South Asia. So that allows you to take a wide range of different approaches to the idea of religion in South Asia. So you can take a sociological approach, you can take a theological approach. You can also look at how those religions are expressed in literature and a wide range of other ways that you can use textual sources to tell you something about those religions, but from a variety of different standpoints. The Working with Languages stream is another important part of the course that we offer. So on this stream, there are kind of different ways of thinking about working with languages. One is learning a language or keeping up a language that you already have. And the other side of it is learning about language and how that functions. So if you have already studied, say, French, German, Spanish, or another language to a high level, you can carry that on as part of the Foundation Year course. So you learn courses through our University Language Centre, and the mark that you get for your performance on those courses contributes towards the Foundation Year course itself. The other side of the Working with Languages stream is papers that look at what language is and how it functions. So for those, you don't have to have any prior language learning, you don't have to have any interest in studying modern languages or anything else like that. But what you're really looking at is how languages function in society and how they've come into being. So some of the papers on that include a paper looking at the history of the English language. So where did English come from? How have different kind of events through history influenced it? And then we also have a paper that looks at English language learning in schools for people who don't maybe speak English at home, and how that kind of functions. So as you can see, those kind of papers could include everything from history to kind of sociology, politics, and all of the factors that influence language that we use today. In addition, kind of away from the course itself, it doesn't necessarily contribute to your mark. You can also learn a language from scratch or keep up a language that you already have been learning through the University Language Centre, and we will pay for you to take these courses as an extracurricular activity, because learning a language can be a real help regardless of the kind of study that you go on to, and it will help you in your future life and career. So you can learn something from scratch like Persian or Swahili, or you can, if you already speak a language, take it at an intermediate level or an advanced level, just to keep your skills fresh. It's also really helpful for courses that many of our courses that do involve a language component, learning from scratch, like Asian and Middle Eastern studies. So yeah, learning a language through the foundation year is something that we very much enable you to do.
Now, a material source can be almost anything. So it can be something called material culture, which could be, a pencil, a fork, essentially anything that you can kind of pick up and touch counts as a piece of material culture. But it can also be something like audio-visual sources. It can be almost anything, essentially, that isn't a piece of sort of written text. So the material sources stream encompasses a huge amount of different sources that you will use to, again, encounter different subjects and think about them in a range of different ways, but also the ability to use a material source as a piece of evidence.
So one of the papers is looking at the human body in visual art. So that's everything from sculpture and portrait, and really you're looking at the ways in which bodies are represented. So that allows you to bring in all sorts of social and cultural elements into the way that you're learning to look at those objects.
So one example of one of the material sources paper is a paper that looks at the excavation of Richard III. Richard III was a king of England about 550 years ago, and in the last decade his body was rediscovered in a car park in Leicester. Now, it might sound like this is a paper that is primarily about the history of England, and there is a little bit of that in this paper, but actually what the paper explores is how the discovery of a skeleton can tell us a whole range of different things, both about the history of a country, but also about the kind of present of a city. So Richard III was found in a car park in Leicester. And one thing we think about in the paper is what that rediscovery has meant for Leicester, and the way that this skeleton has sort of changed the shape of Leicester as a sort of city, the way that it's been kind of incorporated into the city's image, the city's heritage, and the way that the city portrays itself. And that's just one aspect of the paper. We also think about the way that the skeleton was discovered, the archaeology, the excavation and all of that, but also some of the techniques that have been used to examine Richard's diet, how he was killed, all of these different things that skeleton allows us to do. So it's not just a sort of history paper, it's actually a paper that thinks about sociology, about archaeology, about bioethics, lots of different things.
On the other side of the size scale is a paper that we have on King's College Chapel. So this is a building in Cambridge. It's very famous, known worldwide, and it's a religious space as well as an icon of the city, and it's got a really interesting history as well. So within that paper, you can look at things from a sociological perspective, from a land economics perspective, as well as looking at it from a theological or historical perspective. And finally, we have a stream called Working with Data. Now, people often say, why are we looking at data? This is a course in the arts, humanities and social sciences, but data is a really important thing in the modern world. It's something that underpins so much of our politics and our society. So on our Working with Data stream, you learn not only how to handle data, how it actually might work and how you can understand it, but you also learn to think critically about how data is used. So for example, we have a paper that's very topical. It looks at COVID-19 and data. You'll remember during the pandemic, there were lots of charts being used all over the place in the media. And we look at how the data that was collected then influenced the decisions and the policies that were made at that time. We also have a paper that looks at environmental change in societies. So that looks at what environmental data can tell us about the future and about our current world, and also about historical societies, looking at the data we hold on societies that no longer exist. So working with data is both a kind of a practical data handling exercise, but it also really influences people who are interested in studying politics, sociology, social anthropology, and any of the social sciences oriented disciplines. And it's a skill set that really sets our students up to succeed. I hope this has been a useful introduction to the way in which our course is structured. It is quite different to many standard degree courses that focus only on one subject, but we believe it offers the best possible preparation for degree study, whether at Cambridge or elsewhere.